Good morning. Today we are going to discuss about the TCA cycle, which is also called the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle. Now the term TCA, it stands for tricarboxylic acid because citric acid is an acid which contains three carboxylate groups. So the name TCA cycle or tricarboxylic acid cycle. Now the TCA cycle, it occupies a very important central point in metabolism. Now we know that we have the main source of energy in our diet is carbohydrates. But other than carbohydrates, we can use fats and proteins as a source of energy in the form of ATP. Now, what is the oxidation pathway? Different sources have different methods of oxidation, but ultimately, whenever the oxidation takes place, we have a final common outlet pathway. And this pathway is the TCA cycle, which we will be discussing now in detail. So the TCA cycle, it is a final common pathway of oxidation of acetyl-CoA, which is obtained from carbohydrates, fats, and amino acids. Now we know that the pathway of breakdown is glucose is glycolysis. Glycolysis is through glycolysis, glucose is broken down into pyruvate, and pyruvate is converted into acetyl-CoA. Similarly for fatty acids. For fatty acids, the major oxidation pathway is beta oxidation. In beta oxidation, two carbons are released in each cycle of the oxidation, and it is released in the form of acetyl-CoA, which enters the TCA cycle. Similarly for amino acids. So this is a final common pathway of oxidation of acetyl-CoA, which can be obtained from either carbohydrates, fatty acids, or amino acids. It is a cyclical pathway which occurs in the mitochondria, and it consists of 8 sequential enzyme catalyzed reactions. The cycle was discovered by Hans Krebs, and hence the name Krebs cycle. So we have either proteins or fats or carbohydrates. These, through the individual pathways, can be converted to acetyl-CoA. The acetyl-CoA, it enters the TCA cycle for its final oxidation. Now we know that glucose is broken down through glycolysis, and the end product of glycolysis is pyruvate. Now we have different outputs of pyruvate depending on the aerobic or anaerobic conditions. If you remember, as we discussed in glycolysis, under anaerobic conditions, pyruvate is converted to lactate by the enzyme lactate dehydrogenase, whereas in aerobic conditions, pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA. And this conversion is done with the help of the enzyme pyruvate dehydrogenase. So, how does glucose enter the TCA cycle? It enters the TCA cycle with the help of this enzyme complex, which is the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. This acts as a bridge between glycolysis and TCA cycle and converts pyruvate to acetyl-CoA. So, we have glycolysis leading to formation of pyruvate. Pyruvate has to be converted to acetyl-CoA before it can enter the TCA cycle, and this conversion is brought about with the help of the enzyme complex, which is the PDH complex or the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. Now, why do we call this PDH complex as a pyruvate dehydrogenase complex? It is because pyruvate dehydrogenase is not a single enzyme, but it is a multi-enzyme complex which occurs in the mitochondrial matrix. It contains 3 enzymes and 5 coenzymes. Now, what are these enzymes? Pyruvate decarboxylase, dihydrolipoyl transacetylase, and dihydrolipoyl dehydrogenase. And the coenzymes here are lipoic acid, NAD+, FAD, coenzyme A, and thymine pyrophosphate. Now, it is very important for you to remember the components of this multi-enzyme complex because very commonly it comes as a question in your exams and also for your PE entrance examination. So here we have a diagrammatic representation of the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. As you can see, there are 3 enzymes, E1, E2, and E3. It is pyruvate dehydrogenase, dihydrolipoyl transacetylase, and dihydrolipoyl dehydrogenase. So in the beginning, we are starting with we are starting here with pyruvate. Then we have a sequence of reactions. The various coenzymes are here inside, you can see in detail. And ultimately, we are leading to the formation of acetyl-CoA. And this is also accompanied by a reduction reaction, that is, one molecule of NADH is being produced, and one molecule of NADH is equivalent to 2.5 ATPs through the electron transport chain. Now, if we come to the reactions of the PDH complex one by one, it is a bit complicated, but I have tried to represent it as simply as possible. So the first reaction is pyruvate, which combines with TPP to form a condensation product. Reaction number 2, this condensation product is decarboxylated, leading to the formation of a hydroxyethyl intermediate. Next, the acetyl group is transferred from this intermediate, and it is transferred to lipoic acid, which is another enzyme of the PDH complex, leading to the formation of acetyl lipoic acid. Acetyl group from this acetyl lipoic acid is then transferred to CoA, which is another coenzyme of this PDH complex, and this leads to the formation of acetyl-CoA, and this acetyl-CoA enters into the TCA cycle. In the last reaction, the oxidized lipoic acid is then regenerated from the reduced form. So why do we need this multi-enzyme complex? Why do we not have enzymes which are like normally present with each separate enzyme for each separate reaction? The function of this multi-enzyme complex is that the intermediate products are not released into the medium, but they are immediately channeled to the next enzyme. So this increases the efficiency and reduces the time of reaction. So as we know, we are dealing with very vital reactions here. The link between pyruvate and acetyl-CoA, or glycolysis and the TCA cycle. And the main function of TCA cycle is production of energy, which we require fast. So when the enzymes exist in the form of this complex, then the efficiency of the reaction increases very much. So this is a review of the reactions once again. So the first reaction is pyruvate. It combines with thymine pyrophosphate, forming a condensation product. Now this condensation product is decarboxylated, giving an hydroxyethyl intermediate. Next, the acetyl group from this intermediate is transferred to lipoic acid, giving acetyl lipoic acid. From here, the acetyl group is transferred to CoA, giving acetyl-CoA. And the final reaction is the regeneration of the lipoic acid. Coming to the regulation of the PDH complex, the regulation of PDH complex is very important because this is one of the major points of regulation of the TCA cycle. Now, as we discussed in glycolysis, again here the same concept applies, that the PDH complex is switched on and off depending on the energy level of the cell. The main function of TCA cycle is production of energy. So if the energy level of the cell is high, indicated by ATP and NADH, then the cycle is inhibited. Again, when the energy level is low, which is indicated by high levels of AMP, then the TCA cycle is stimulated. So first we have allosteric regulation. The PDH complex is stimulated by AMP and it is inhibited by ATP, acetyl-CoA and NADH, all of them which indicate high energy levels of the cell. Also, like in case of phosphofructokinase, here we also have covalent modifications like PDH. It has two forms, the phosphorylated form, which is the inactive form, and it acts as a kinase. And this is stimulated by acetyl-CoA, NADH, and ATP. So in the presence of NADH and ATP, then the kinase is stimulated, which causes phosphorylation of PDH, and phosphorylation of PDH makes it inactive. The second form is the dephosphorylated form, which is active, and this is stimulated by calcium and magnesium. So we know that when muscle contraction takes place, when muscles are functioning, then large amount of calcium is released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. So this calcium stimulates the phosphatase, and this causes PDH to remain in the dephosphorylated form, which is active. So more activity of the PDH means more activity of the TCA cycle and more energy is generated, which is very, very important during muscle contraction. So here we have a diagrammatic representation of all the reactions of the TCA cycle. I think most of you are quite familiar with this because this is something which we have been reading since school, but here it is only a little bit more of the detail. Okay, and we have to remember the energetics. But overall, the TCA cycle is a quite simple reaction. So if we go through the reactions one by one, so this is the start point, that is acetyl-CoA, which is entering from glycolysis through pyruvate. Pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA and acetyl-CoA enters the TCA cycle. Acetyl-CoA may be obtained from other sources also like proteins and fats. So the first reaction is the synthesis of citrate. So here what happens is that is a 2-carbon compound, that is acetyl-CoA. It combines with oxaloacetate, which is a 4-carbon compound, and these combine in the presence of the enzyme citrate synthase and they give citrate. Okay, so this is an irreversible reaction and it is a very important point of regulation of the TCA cycle. Okay, this particular reaction, which is a very high particular reaction, and this also regulates glycolysis by inhibiting PFK1. So when the levels, if you remember about our class in glycolysis, citrate acts as an inhibitor of PFK1. So this is the reaction where citrate is being synthesized. Step number 2, isomerization of citrate. It is a reversible reaction. Citrate is converted to isocitrate in the presence of the enzyme aconitase. Step number 3, oxidative decarboxylation of isocitrate. Now, this is a very important reaction because here it is the first NADH molecule is being produced. So if you can see the isocitrate, it is being converted to alpha-ketoglutarate. It is a reduction reaction or oxidative decarboxylation, which is catalyzed by isocitrate dehydrogenase. So this is coupled with either NAD or NADP, both can act as the hydrogen acceptor. And here we can see along with this reaction, one NADH is being produced. So one NADH enters into the TCA cycle and one NADH is equivalent to 2.5 moles of ATP. Next, it is conversion alpha-ketoglutarate by succinyl-CoA. This is done by alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase complex. This again is a multi-enzyme complex which is similar to PDH and it consists of 3 enzymes and 5 coenzymes. This is also an important question for you guys, that which enzymes can exist in the multi-enzyme complex form, alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase complex and PDH complex. This reaction again, it is important because it releases the second is NADH and second CO2. So here again we are producing 2.5 ATPs. Step number 5, that is cleavage of succinyl-CoA. Succinyl-CoA, it is converted to succinate. The enzyme here is succinyl-CoA synthetase, or also called succinyl thiokinase. Very important that the high energy thioester bond is cleaved and the free energy released is used to form GTP directly. So here you can see GTP is being converted to GTP. So this is an example of substrate level phosphorylation or production of energy without involving the electron transport chain. And always remember that when we are considering the energetics, 1 GTP is equivalent to 1 ATP because GTP can be converted to ATP. By this reaction, GTP plus ADP gives GDP plus ATP. Reaction number 6, oxidation of succinate. Succinate is converted to fumarate with the help of the enzyme succinate dehydrogenase. The hydrogen acceptor here is FAD. Okay, so the energetics in case of FAD, when FADH2 is produced, is different from that of NADH. So here we are getting 1.5 ATPs from this reaction. It is very important to remember the energetics of the TCA cycle, and so for that you have to remember the enzymes and the coenzymes involved in each of the reactions. Step number 7, it is a reversible reaction in which fumarate is converted to malate with the help of the enzyme fumarase. Next, we have oxidation of malate to oxaloacetate. So this is the final reaction of the TCA cycle, and the cycle begins again. This is catalyzed by the enzyme malate dehydrogenase. The enzyme, here the coenzyme is NAD, another NADH is being produced, and so this generates the third NADH of the TCA cycle. So again, 2.5 ATPs are being produced here. And the final product is oxaloacetate. So after this, the cycle begins again, that oxaloacetate will combine with acetyl-CoA to give citrate. So again, we have the reactions of the cycle, that acetyl-CoA plus oxaloacetate gives citrate. Then we have isocitrate, and then after this we have alpha-ketoglutarate, succinyl-CoA, succinate, fumarate, malate, and finally oxaloacetate. There are 3 reactions in which NADH is being produced, 1 reaction in which FADH2 is being produced, and 1 substrate level phosphorylation over here. So if we consider the overall energetics of the reaction, we saw that we are producing 3 NADH molecules. So 3 times it is entering the electron transport chain, producing 2.5 ATPs. So total we have 7.5 ATPs from here. 1 FADH2 was being produced, which gives 1.5 ATPs from the TCA cycle. So 1.5 ATPs being produced here. And we had one example of substrate level phosphorylation producing 1 ATP. So the total number of ATPs being produced is 10. Now, one common question you get is that the amount of energy which is being produced on the complete oxidation of one glucose molecule. So when we are talking about the complete oxidation, we are starting with glycolysis, then we are passing through the bridge, which is the PDH complex, and we are ending with the TCA cycle. So when we are talking about aerobic glycolysis, then the number of ATPs produced from glycolysis is 7. From the PDH complex, it is 5 because the reaction takes place twice and 2.5 ATPs are being produced per reaction. So we have 5. And the TCA cycle, 10 ATPs are being produced, but we have to consider it twice because one glucose molecule gives 2 molecules of pyruvate of 2 acetyl-CoAs. So 2 acetyl-CoAs means that the cycle is going to go around twice. So total 20 ATPs are being produced from the TCA cycle. So if we consider the total of all, we have 20 plus 5 plus 7, that is 32 ATPs are being produced from the complete oxidation of one glucose molecule. What are the functions of the TCA cycle? First and foremost, production of energy. We know it very well. Second, it provides a pool of metabolic intermediates for the synthesis of other compounds. Now we have seen that the TCA cycle consists of 8 sequential reactions, among which various intermediates are being produced. Now when you study the whole of metabolism, you will see that everywhere, again and again, we will be getting the substrates of the TCA cycle, the intermediates of the TCA cycle, which are being used as substrates for various synthetic reactions. I'll be giving you some examples in the next slide, but I don't want you to go in detail right now about that. Third, it takes place in anaplerotic reactions. So what do we mean by that? Anaplerotic reactions are feeding reactions. Now, as we discussed in the previous point, that the TCA cycle provides a pool of intermediates for synthesis of other compounds. Now, if these intermediates are being pulled out from the cycle, then the cycle will be inhibited. So simultaneous reactions have to take place to replace these intermediates which were being taken out. And these reactions are called anaplerotic or feeding reactions. They replenish the intermediates removed from the TCA cycle as biosynthetic precursors. So there are a series of anaplerotic reactions. I don't want to discuss them now, but when you go through metabolism as a whole, you will be coming across these reactions again and again. Now here are some examples of the synthetic functions of the TCA cycle. Glucose is synthesized from oxaloacetate from the gluconeogenesis. Fatty acids, citrate is involved. Amino acids are synthesized by transamination of oxaloacetate and alpha-ketoglutarate. It leads to the formation of aspartate and glutamate. Heme, it is synthesized from succinyl-CoA. GABA, it is synthesized from alpha-ketoglutarate. Now, my suggestion is that don't try to memorize these reactions, because definitely you will get confused. But when you will be going through these pathways one by one, like when you study gluconeogenesis, then you can remember oxaloacetate. When you study about heme synthesis, then you will remember out succinyl-CoA. So when you are reading those other metabolic pathways, correlate it with the Krebs cycle, and then you will be able to remember the synthetic functions of the TCA cycle. Next, we're coming to the regulation of the TCA cycle. Now, when we talk about the regulation of the TCA cycle, we again speak about the same concept which we talked about in glycolysis. Now, the main function of the TCA cycle is production of energy. So, if the energy level of the cell is sufficient, then the TCA cycle is inhibited. And if there is a deficiency of energy, then the TCA cycle is stimulated. Now, what indicates a high level of energy in the cell? ATP, NADH, citrate. And what indicates a low level of energy? AMP, ADP, NAD. So these are the factors which will come into action. So the regulation of TCA cycle depends on the energy level of the cell, stimulated by high ratio of NAD plus to NADH. So if the NADH level is low and the NAD plus is high, then the TCA cycle is stimulated. It is inhibited by a high ratio of ATP to ADP. High levels of ATP indicate high energy levels of the cell, so the TCA cycle is inhibited. Now, what are the steps of regulation? There are various steps in which the TCA cycle can be regulated. Now, coming to the first step, the synthesis of citrate from oxaloacetate in the presence of citrate synthase. This is the first step of the TCA cycle, and it is the most important point of regulation. It is subject to feedback inhibition by citrate. So when citrate level is high, there is feedback inhibition, but this inhibition is relieved by the accumulation of oxaloacetate. Also, it is subject to allostatic inhibition by succinyl-CoA and NADH. Next, the reactions catalyzed by isocitrate dehydrogenase and alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. These are activated by ADP and calcium 2+, calcium ions. Now again, which we said previously, then when muscles are contracting, then large amount of calcium ions are released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. Now when the muscle is actively contracting, ATP is used up, so it requires more energy to be synthesized and stimulation of the TCA cycle. It is inhibited by high ratio of NADH to NAD. Next, the reaction catalyzed by alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase. This also can be regulated by phosphorylation and dephosphorylation, like we did in case of pyruvate dehydrogenase. Allosterically, it is inhibited by succinyl-CoA, ATP, and NADH. Succinate dehydrogenase, it is inhibited competitively by malonate. Finally, we are coming to the inhibitors of the TCA cycle. We have number 1, fluoroacetate. It non-competitively inhibits aconitase. Arsenite, it non-competitively inhibits alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, whereas malonate, it competitively inhibits succinate dehydrogenase. Now, the reaction of malonate competitively inhibiting succinate dehydrogenase, it is a typical example of competitive inhibition. It is also a very common question which will be asked in your exams. So that is the end of the TCA cycle. So thank you very much. And if you have any doubts, you can feel free to contact me. Thank you.